Welcome to this presentation about recovery strategies to address the focus question, how can nutrition and recovery strategies affect performance? In terms of linking to the syllabus, you can clearly see that there are four main types of recovery strategies, with various examples under each heading. Physiological strategies include cool down and hydration. Neural strategies include hydrotherapy and massage. Tissue damage strategies include cryotherapy, and psychological strategies include relaxation. In terms of the Learn To statement, you are asked to research the recovery strategies and then discern or determine their main features and the proposed benefits to performance. Starting off with psychological strategies, there are two main strategies: cool down and hydration. Cool down is considered to be the most important recovery strategy because it is the first recovery strategy that an athlete should do. It is the most immediate recovery strategy and can have a really big impact on the degree to which an athlete will recover before their next bout of physical activity. So a cool down should be active, it should be gradual. It should last about 5 to 10 minutes, or maybe more, depending on the intensity of your workout. And it should include slow jogging, walking, some slow swimming, and cycling, depending on the activity that you've been doing. And the aim is to return the body to its pre-exercise temperature and also bring the heart rate down to resting. Now, there are various benefits for cool down. You can clearly see that ventilation rate and blood distribution returns to normal, and adrenaline levels gradually return to normal as well. But more importantly, the removal of waste products such as lactic acid. It's important after exercise that the lactic acid is able to be recirculated back into the blood. If it remains in the muscle, it can lead to all sorts of issues with regard to muscle soreness and stiffness. So it reduces that as well, and also prevents muscle spasms and cramping, and assists in preventing what's called delayed onset muscle soreness, also known as DOMS. Now, after intense exercise, the muscle fibers are actually stretched and damaged, and this leads to an inflammatory response within the muscle. If left as is without a cool down, it can lead to what's called delayed onset muscle soreness, which is the soreness that an athlete will develop a couple of days after an intense workout. So cool down will reduce the impact of that. Now, static stretching is also fairly important for cool down. After physical activity, muscle fibers tend to become shorter, and they tend to lose their elasticity as well as their alignment. So what static stretching does is it helps the muscle to return back to its normal length. It relaxes the muscles, realigns them, and it improves the range of motion. And it reduces the risk of injury long term and definitely before the next bout of physical activity. Moving on to the next physiological strategy, hydration. Hydration is very important for an athlete in all aspects of their physical activity, pre-event, during, but post-event, it is extremely important as well. When you take part in intense endurance activity, fluid loss can lead to dehydration during the event, but also once the event is finished. So dehydration is characterized by an increase in pulse rate, core body temperature, blood pressure, a decrease in blood pressure, a decrease in water in the cells, and also a gradual decline in overall circulatory function. Now, dehydration obviously is the worst thing that an athlete would like to experience after physical activity. So rehydrating after an event is extremely important to avoid these detrimental effects. Now, it's important to know that thirst is a poor indicator of dehydration. Many times an athlete may feel thirsty, and at that point dehydration is already set in. So the best indicator is urine, and if you can see down on the chart below, you can see that the colours indicate severely dehydrated, meaning urine is quite dark, right through to well hydrated, where the urine is quite pale to slightly yellow. We all know, and we've been aware from sports medicine, that a weight difference represents a fluid loss. So generally speaking, an athlete will lose fluid weight during their exercise, and this needs to be replaced so that they can remain hydrated and be able to return to training as quickly as possible. A dehydrated athlete will not be able to return to training as quickly as a hydrated athlete. So the general rule is 1.5 litres of fluid for every 1 kilogram of body weight lost. So if an athlete weighs 2 kilograms lighter after exercise, they need to drink 3 litres of fluid over the next 3 hours, and generally sipping the fluid is the best way to go, as opposed to big gulps of fluid all at once, so sipping it over a long period of time. Severe dehydration may require 24 to 48 hours to enable fluids to be totally replaced. So here you can see, in recovery, the importance of replenishing fluid. It takes a number of hours to do so, and if it's not done so correctly and in the right amounts, can lead to dehydration, which can further set back an athlete and stop them from returning to training, returning to full competition. Now, you may know a lot about sports drinks and the comparison to water. Now, sports drinks are recommended. They contain sodium and potassium, which actually stimulate the thirst mechanism in the body. Now, plain water can sometimes trick the body into thinking that it's overhydrated, and the kidneys can then stimulate urine output, which then leads to dehydration. So the sports drinks with the sodium and potassium tend to keep that process at a level ground, so that the body feels as though it needs to keep consuming fluid to remain hydrated. The high sugar content in juice and soft drinks is not recommended. It can slow the absorption of the fluid and cause stomachache, and carbonation is not recommended either because it can bloat the athlete. Now, sports drinks can be categorized into three. We've got hypotonic, isotonic, and hypertonic. Now, you can clearly see that hypotonic are drinks that are meant to be consumed to quickly replace fluids, and they're low in carbohydrate. So it's for those who need to be hydrated without carbs. So jockeys and gymnasts, a good example, but good for consuming during performance. The isotonic contain some carbohydrates, and they can quickly replace fluid, and they can give a boost of carbohydrates, and they're good for athletes, footballers, other sports people to be consumed during an event for those that need a little bit of extra carbs. But the hypertonic drinks are really suited to recovery because they include a lot of carbohydrate in them, 10% plus. So what this means is that if you're drinking these hypertonic drinks after an event, you're not only getting the hydration effect, but you're also getting the replenishment of glycogen stores, which is a really important thing because fuel recovery is equally as important as fluid recovery, because when you finish a long, intense endurance event and you're particularly your body really requires more glycogen because it's been used up during that event. So with these particular drinks, hypertonic drinks, you can actually replace the glycogen stores very easily. Now, hydration. Post-exercise, just in wrapping up, hypertonic drinks are very useful after a very long session. And this could be equally achieved by having a meal and drinking some water, but sometimes athletes don't really feel like doing that. So this is a good, easy way of getting carbs in as well as hydration. Now, moving on to neural strategies, and the two strategies in question are massage and hydrotherapy. Now, neural strategies, we need to understand that they help the central and peripheral nervous systems recover after a high level of work. The system's fatigue due to change in chemicals such as lactic acid found in muscles following heavy bouts of exercise or due to psychological reasons. So these strategies can assist with the recovery of the neural pathways, and they can help the muscles reactivate again and become renewed and ready for physical activity again. Now, hydrotherapy basically means recovery with the use of water. So there are many physiological effects. It has quite an impact on the heart. Okay, it changes the way blood flows around the body. It has an impact on skin, muscle, and core temperature. Okay, and some examples are hot water immersion and contrast water therapy. Contrast water immersion basically means alternating between cold and warmer fluids, interspersed with some breaks in between. So what this does is increases flow through the actions of vasoconstriction and vasodilation. So you remember this from sports medicine, the inflammatory response in particular. The vessels vasoconstrict when they're in a colder environment, and they vasodilate in the warmer environment. And this can just help bring new, fresh blood to the area of concern. So areas that are fatigued or injured, more nutrients will be delivered to those areas because the vessels are being opened and closed. And this can just refresh the athlete and make them feel more alert. Even temperature immersion is basically a more consistent temperature that the body undertakes or that the athlete undertakes. So it might be entering into spa baths, or it might be just doing pool work and moving around in a pool to get the joints moving and the muscles moving. And it can reduce the buildup of lactates and in the muscles and help recirculate that.